And we have these conversations, which is, I'm making the money I want to make, and I'm really known for what I do, and I'm helping so many people, but I'm not happy. Like, what's wrong? What's the problem here? The inner work is absolutely essential, and it is the pathway to greater fulfillment and a deeper sense of purpose, which in turn can lead to greater success in the traditional markers. And that's the greatest irony. You need to ask your soul how the inner work looks like for you.
Welcome to It's Not What You Think, the podcast that takes you on a transformative journey to rewrite your story of greatness and reawaken your soul's purpose. I'm your host, Celine DaCosta, a subconscious mind expert, master coach, and believer in the limitless power and magic that lives within all of us. My intention in this podcast is to propel you into your next level of success so that you are free to create the life that your heart most desires. Through deep, actionable insights, personal stories, and world-class guests, I'll provide you with the tools, strategies, and resources you need to unlock the fullest expression of who you're meant to be in this lifetime so that you can consciously design a reality that is beyond what you could have ever dreamed of. Join me on this journey to personal growth and evolution, and let's live our lives in accordance with our highest soul's calling. This podcast is your weekly check-in to help this path become more simple, obtainable, and fun. Thank you for tuning in today, and now let's dive in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to It's Not What You Think. Today is just me, and I want to have a serious conversation with you about success. The word success carries with it a lot of connotations, a lot of pressure, and a lot of definitions for the most of us. And, what I find to be really interesting in my work, doing a lot of high performance and working with high performers and, top-notch entrepreneurs, people who are cream of the crop in their game, is the topic of success comes up so often. More specifically, this thought of, am I successful enough yet? What do I need to do next to be successful? Or how can I be more successful? And there is this perpetual rat race for success, which I'm not going to lie, I have also been a part of. I sometimes get caught up in. And so that's part of the reason why I've spent so much of my time really thinking about this and really giving this a lot of reflection, is because of the ways that I have watched it affect myself, my clients, the people that are in my circle. And one of the things that is really curious to me is how often we talk about this concept of success and how little we actually define what success actually is and what success is specifically to you in your life. There is this collective agreement that perhaps success, from my understanding, means that you're meeting all of the qualifications that you're meant to be meeting as is agreed upon in your specific collective field. And what I mean by that is that in New York City, success looks like you live in a decent apartment that doesn't have mice, that you're not sharing with like 8 roommates, although an 8-room apartment would probably be far more comfortable than a 3-person apartment. But you know what I mean? Like you in New York, where I lived in for a few years, when you're successful, you're likely working in corporate, you're working a respectable job in a company that is quite well known. And has this company been featured? Has it been seen? Is it on Madison Avenue? Like, oh, you work a really nice, like you're working as an analyst in Goldman Sachs. Oh my gosh, like, right? And there's this prestige around where you're working, and then you're living in a certain place. Oh my gosh, you live in East Village. You live in like the new trendy spot in New York. Oh my God. And so success has this connotation to it that is shaped by the environment, which is New York City, very driven, very money driven, very career driven, very success driven, very much like go after your dreams. And so if you're going after your dreams, you're successful. Now, if you go to, for example, a village in the middle of Indonesia, the definition of success may change because the collective agreement is that you are successful so long as you have a family business. If you're a woman, you're successful so long as you're married by a certain age and you have a certain amount of children and they're healthy children and your husband's doing really well, or he's really known or he has his own family business or whatever that may be. That definition of success completely changes. So I guess the first thing I want to declare is that the definition of success really varies depending on where you grew up, your environment, your culture, your parents, like how you were conditioned growing up. There is going to be a completely different definition of what success could be and would be. And so I want to speak specifically to the quote unquote definition of success that I grew up in. And I know many people listening to this podcast, many people, if you would relate to calling yourself a high performer or somebody who's very ambitious and really wants to like create it, like actually genuinely authentically wants to create a change in the world, you're very likely an entrepreneur, or you're thinking about becoming one, or you're in a really nice corporate job and you like actually want to make a difference in your work. So if that's you, which I'm guessing it is, if you found your way here, I'm speaking specifically to the definition of success of basically you need to work really hard. You need to prove to us that you've worked really hard, which looks like having accolades, having awards, having some kind of title, some kind of prestige that quote unquote shows us that you are someone, right? That you're someone important, someone who's making enough money, somebody who has a certain level of influence and a certain level of impact. And I want to speak specifically to this because what I have found in my experience in the online business world is that there's like the three I's of success in the business world, right? And I'm sure you've heard this. And by the way, I just want you to know that as I'm speaking these things, I'm not poo-pooing on them. I've used them in my marketing. I've used them myself. I've seen people use them. They are pretty trendy. They're pretty snappy. And so it's not about, I'm not, poo-pooing on these words, but rather calling attention to them and really starting to open the question of what does this really mean when we speak them, because it just feels like they've been overdone. But anyways, without further ado, the words are the three I's that seem to be the markers, traditional markers of success these days are income, impact, and influence. And like I said, I've used this myself, like come and do this, you get more income, more influence, more impact. Like these are like the sexy, trendy words that we use when it comes to describing something that we all seem to want as it pertains to the traditional definition of success. So if I told you like, hey, listen, you're building, let's say you're building a business, yeah? And I come to you and I say, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to show you how you can make more income in your business, more money, and how you can become more influential, like more known by people. So it's easier for people to know who you are, and how you can create more impact. So like more people are being changed by the work that you do. Would you say no to that? I mean, it's pretty good, right? It's pretty lucrative. It's pretty much like, yeah, of course I want to make more money. That makes sense. That's going to help me grow my business. It's going to help me hire more people. It's going to help me like live more of the lifestyle that I want to live. And yeah, I do want to be, most people want to be influential because, and this is a whole other rabbit hole that probably requires its own podcast, but we want to be influential because at our core, human beings we don't want to be forgotten. Like it's one of our core desires as a human being is to be seen, is to be remembered, it's to be seen, it's to be actually like acknowledged. But at the core of it is really this deep, deep desire that we all have to be seen. And so when we look at how can we get seen, fame and influence and being known for who you are, being known for what you do is one of the biggest, like this is one of the reasons why some people froth over it. It's why like famous people are freaking obsessed over, because they represent and mirror back to us this deep founded fucking desire that we have as human beings to, hey, can you please see me? Can you please see me? Can you please see me? And so we will do, until we come into our awakening and until we become conscious of what we're doing, we will very often unconsciously do some pretty ridiculous things to get noticed and to be seen and to have that attention on us so that we're not forgotten. And, it's because it's really like, it actually hits on one of the core fears of humanity, which is annihilation, AKA death. Like death is freaking scary. Death is terrifying. And knowing that as human beings, like we are constantly facing our own annihilation makes it really important for us to find a way to make the most meaning that we have out of the life that we have. And the way that people do that varies. But as I've seen it translated in the online world, as I've seen it translated in my industry, which is coaching, it's like, how can I be remembered for what I do? And so there's a light side and there's a shadow side of that. The light side is like, can I create something that's so beautiful and so epic that it like extends beyond my lifetime? The shadow side of that is like, how can I get on more media and how can I get more PR and how can I get people to notice me and notice me and see me and see me and see me? Like, how can I get more known so I can get more clients, right? And there's a lot of corruption that happens in this stage, which I will talk about more towards the end of this podcast. But I just want to complete the three I's because I tend to go on tangents sometimes. We know this, which is the third piece is like impact and this desire of like, oh my gosh, well, if I'm gonna sit here and freaking do all this work and make money and get known, might as well also like help some people along the way, right? Like might as well create something that people are going to use and get a benefit of, which is also important because hello, if your business does not have an impact, your business is going to die. It's only a matter of time. Like businesses that, I think the statistics is that, what is it, 95% of businesses shut down by the fifth year, or is it the first year? I would need to look this up. But anyway, within 5 years, 95% of businesses fail. And that's because many, many reasons, but the core reason I can point to every single time is that there's an element of this business that isn't providing the value that the market needs, or it is providing it and doesn't know how to communicate the value. But the point being is that, of course, for you to have a long-standing business, for you to have a long-standing mission that actually grows and stands the test of time, you're going to need to create a product or service that is going to provide value for people and is going to continue to provide value, like to innovate and continue to provide value to people so that when people are consuming your service or your product, they are getting a certain level of value and or transformation. And that's what makes a business grow. And that's what makes it also really satisfying when you are impacting people's lives. And this is like, I believe why most entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs is because, my gosh, the satisfaction, the deep freaking satisfaction of creating a service or a product and knowing that people are using it and their like lives are getting better because of it. That is freaking cool. Yeah. So the three I's then are really around the impact, the income, and the influence, whatever order that that you want to give it. And these are, you can see how they're very motivating, right? And you can see how having this is actually going to lead to tangible success as we define it, because you're making money and you're helping people and you're known for what you do. So more people come to you and more people give you their money. Amazing. Like success, check, check, check. Tangible success is done. As long as you're following these three markers, like you're going to have a successful, thriving business and you're going to be able to, create a lot of the things that you desire. But what I find, because I work with a lot of people who are extremely successful, the way that you define it, the way that you would buy the book, they are making a really good amount of money, very comfortable living. They are known. A lot of the people that I work with are influencers, industry leaders, people that are known by tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. Worked with people that are known by millions of people. And okay, so great. So now you're known and a lot of people know who you are. And the things you say and the things you do and the things you're creating are changing their lives. So what gives? Like, why is it that they're still coming to me? And not only my clients, but I have a lot of friends as well that come to me and confide in me. And we have these conversations, which is, I'm making the money I want to make. And I'm really known for what I do. And I'm helping so many people, but I'm not happy. Like, what's wrong? What's the problem here? And it really frazzles people. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I have everything. What's the problem? And you know what? I may not have millions of followers or, maybe making tens of millions of dollars yet. But I know my work has a lot of impact. I definitely know that I desire for it to have more impact on more people. But on a micro scale, like I really, really profoundly get it because I've gone through this entire rodeo myself. I've gone through the cycle of, oh my gosh, I need to work really, really hard. And, for those of you who listened to my first 3 episodes, the introduction to me and my story, that I've definitely busted my ass, like getting some work done and building my business and becoming more and becoming more and doing more and doing more. And in my own career, like I've gotten some pretty freaking cool traditional markers of success, like early in my career, I started working with really known people that got me really known in the industry. I was a Forbes columnist for over 5 years. I was also featured in Forbes myself. I was featured in that and like 100 other media outlets, like Top 100 Podcast, Business Insider, Entrepreneur, Tony Robbins podcast. Like there's some really big names that I have either worked with or been featured in or collaborated with that were able to skyrocket my career. And it's part of why, one of my zones of geniuses that I support people with is helping them create that really compelling brand story that gets your story out into the world and really gets people to notice you. So this is one of my bread and butters of what I help people do. But the thing is, like, there is a catch-all. And I know in my personal journey, I spent the first years of my career really focusing on those traditional markers, which is, how do I put myself out there? And those were the ways, that I've done it. Many ways is like getting out in the media, getting seen and recognized and acknowledged by these professional media outlets and personalities and people in the industry that were then able to contribute to my career. Impact. I know that my work has helped. I've worked really hard to make sure that the work that I do has helped thousands of people through my courses, through my private coaching. Like the testimonials are, I was going to say out the butt, but I just said it. They're out the butt. Like you go on my website, like there's no shortage of testimonials of what this work can do. And then income, like working my way into a space where I'm regularly earning high 5 and 6-figure months. Like all of those boxes have been checked over the course of my career. And I remember hitting this point where I was like, okay, cool. So I'm making the money that I want and I'm helping a lot of people and I'm known. So what gives, right? So the reason why I can answer this question for my clients or people that confide in me is because I've been through this rodeo myself. And I'm going to tell you what gives. And that is the fourth eye that no one's talking about and gets swept under the carpet and is extremely underrated, even though it is the more important than any of those three things combined. And the fourth eye is inner work. And the reason why many entrepreneurs feel so fulfilled in their career, despite having achieved these markers, like despite having done so much in their business and having created so much in their business and helped so many people and get known for what they do. And then they're still like scratching their head, being like, what gives? What I have found is, I'm going to say this bluntly, is that they're neglecting the inner work and or they're doing the inner work. They're actually doing it, but they've hit such a plateau in the inner work that it becomes this like meaningless cyclical thing, like a morning day meditation that you're just putting on your calendar because you think you need to do it in order for you to like, quote unquote, be like in order for you to be, there's this story and I'm speaking to the story collectively because of how many times I've heard it in different variations, which is, well, I need to wake up every morning an hour early and do like an hour meditation. I'm like, oh, great. Why? Well, because I should. Okay. And that's what they're calling the inner work is they're just checking off more boxes of the thing that they should be doing because they should be doing the inner work and therefore they're just shoulding all over themselves. Like I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I should be doing this. And so let me just schedule in time for me to do the inner work, or let me schedule in time for me to do a silent meditation. But there isn't like a deeper meaning or a deeper connection to this work, at least not in the way that, they're hungry to make more money or that they're hungry to be more known or to help more people. Like that connection to that fourth eye isn't fully there. And so, but the thing is, it needs to be. It needs to be. And this podcast is really going to go through the details and the intricacies of why there needs to be. But the short version is that doing the inner work, which is literally like, and those of you who have been following probably know, but I'm going to define it anyways. For the sake of defining it, I'm going to share what I'm speaking to when I'm talking about the inner work. The inner work is actually like looking at your inner world and what's going on in your inner world, both in your physical body, your emotional body, and your mental body, and in your soul, and to consistently be checking in on what is actually happening in your inner world and how what's being happening in your inner world is being reflected in your external world. How is it that how you feel about yourself, your relationship with yourself, the way you see yourself, the way you engage with yourself, how is it that these things are actually affecting how you show up in your relationships, how you show up in your business, how you show up for life, and all the things that you desire that you don't have? What about you in your inner work is not being done? And what I can share with you is this is why many entrepreneurs feel unfulfilled despite having achieved all of these markers. The inner work is absolutely essential, and it is the pathway to greater fulfillment and a deeper sense of purpose, which in turn can lead to greater success in the traditional markers. And that's the greatest irony. So I want to land this plane in some tangible examples, which is, let's say that actually I'll work with some client examples, which is, all right, so I have a client who is making millions of dollars, very well known, and also supporting a lot of people, feeling unfulfilled, unhappy. Why? Because her marriage is falling apart. And so her marriage is falling apart. And as a result, she's feeling very fearful, very unlovable, very like afraid to lose somebody she loves. And so as a result, this is pre inner work and post inner work, right? So pre inner work is, well, I have a relationship, it's failing. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to deal with it. It's too scary, and I don't have the tools, and I don't have the know-how of how to actually just be and work on this relationship, understand how I am 50% of the cause in this. So instead of actually being with that discomfort and being with those fears and looking at what's underneath and what I don't want to face right now, what I'm going to do is I am going to invest more of my time and energy in growing my business, in creating more impact, income, and influence, so that I can get a positive feedback loop. Because the more money that I make, the more people recognize me and see me, and the more people whose lives I can transform, the better I feel about myself. And so because I feel better about myself, and because I'm getting validated in this area of my life, which looks like these traditional markers of business, then I am successful. And because I am successful, I can now latch onto this part of me being successful, and I don't have to deal with my failing relationship. Or I can just get divorced, or I can just ignore it and just or let it fall apart, or whatever the story is there for that specific person. And I know I'm getting into some like really complex stuff. But basically what a lot of people will do is they will leverage and use these three I's to prove to themselves that they're successful and to continue to build on that success, and then neglect the other areas of their lives. And that is what creates that sense of unfulfillment. Because if all you're doing is working hard on your business and working hard to be successful in your business as we defined it, then what you're not doing, most likely, is taking care of yourself, having time for your passions and your hobbies, having time for your loved ones to nurture and grow and flourish your relationships, and many other things. Maybe if you have kids, like not have time to be present for your children. There's a lot of trade-offs that come with I need more success, I need more success, I need more success, I need more success. And that is why an integral part of our definition of success, at least the way I found it, is to include that fourth I, which is the inner work. I'm going to actually level it up, because I actually, even though I'm saying this out loud, I'm like, inner work, inner fulfillment. It's the inner world part needs to be an essential marker of our success. Because as I said at the beginning of this episode, you're going to need to get really clear if you want to be fulfilled in your success and feel like you're authentically successful. You need to get really clear on what your personal definition of success is. In your world, in your existence, in your life, when we talk about success, what is it to you? What is it to you? And in which ways until now, have you been unconsciously indoctrinated into subscribing into a version of success that isn't actually yours? I know I have been through this. Growing up in the US, I was an immigrant. I came to the US when I was 10 years old. And I remember that, an innocent 10-year-old coming into the United States, I just could this consistent, it was like a marketing campaign, this consistent messaging of, okay, well, you're an immigrant, which means you need to make it so you can prove your worth here on this country. There's an entire narrative for those of you who have immigrated either in the US or like in certain countries. I know this to be very much true, which is there's like an entire narrative that doesn't get talked about often enough around immigrants, which is that if you're in this country, you better freaking prove yourself. Right. And there's this narrative that you're stepping into as an immigrant in a country, like working in that country. It's just that, yeah, like, are you going to work hard? Like, are you going to make it? Are you going to make it? Or are you going to be, are you going to be a burden on the system? And so I had this narrative of first, like, I'm immigrating to the US, I better make it. And then as I'm like living in one of the wealthiest suburbs in Northeast, and my family was not wealthy. And again, for those of you who have listened to my introductory podcast episode, you'll know that we're mid upper income. And then when my stepfather walked out, we were like freaking lower income. And I was still going to the same school where my peers were like, getting Mercedes Benz and Porsches and BMWs gifted to them on their 16th birthday. And I'm just sitting here like, oh my God, I need to go and like leave school early so I can work my 30-hour week so I can like support my mom with rent and support like myself, like to not be a burden on my mother. And so having this like this indoctrination of, okay, I need to work really hard and I need to prove myself. I need to prove that I'm worthy of being here. So I need to, and then everybody's getting into like these really good schools. So I have to get in a good school and then I have to excel in this good school and get really, really good grades so that I can get into corporate, so that I can be in a respectable job, making a respectable salary so that I can pay for my own bills and I can actually become financially independent and then like be successful and be known and be proven. And it goes loop-de-doop-de-doop-de-doop-de-doop-de-doop-de-doop, like an actual freaking carousel of foreverness. So that was the definition that I was subscribed to. And part of my work, like deconditioning myself out of that through my inner work, was to actually ask the question, like, what if it's not what I think? What if it's not about this definition of success? What if there's other definitions available that I haven't made myself available to just because I haven't opened my mind wide enough to understand or believe that there's another way to be successful? Because I went that way. I did the thing. I did the loop-de-doop. Like I went to an Ivy League school. I got top grades. I went to like work at a prestigious corporate job at an agency that was featured in Forbes and like other things so that I could say that it was a good place to work in. And I did that for 3 years. And then I left. I left my work. I went to travel the world and I started building my own business. But then I started to rebuild the same freaking paradigm in my business around like, okay, how do I prove myself now? How do I prove that I'm worth listening to? How do I prove that my work is good enough? How do I prove that I should be seen, that I should be listened to, that people should work with me? Like, how do I prove? How do I prove? How do I prove? And it's all a freaking trauma response. I'm sorry to say that, but it is. And I'm saying this because of the rate at which I work with people like through this now, which is I was freaking going through a knee-jerk trauma response of I fundamentally didn't believe that I was worthy. And so the only way I could fill the gap in my reality at the time was that I needed to fill the gap of, oh, I don't actually fundamentally feel worthy. And so I desire to feel worthy. And what I perceive is going to fill that gap is more money, more income, more influence. So let's fill the gap. And part of my journey, my personal journey through this, was actually understanding that no amount of external validation, external rewards, external accolades, external income, people applauding me, articles, whatever it looked like, or people saying I did a good job for them, like, in the form of testimonials or like, oh my God, you changed my life. Like no amount of that was scratching the itch of I didn't feel like I was enough. It just wasn't hitting. It wasn't hitting the G-spot. Forgive my crassness. It just wasn't getting there. And so what needed to happen? What needed to happen is I needed to pause all of the external chasing. The hamster wheel needed to pause it. Okay, what if all of these things I'm creating, which is amazing, I created the life of my dreams externally? What would it feel like if I started to feel the life I actually desired internally? If I started to feel worthy of the life that I so deeply craved? Because in the course of a few years after leaving my work, my corporate job, I mean, in just a few years, like I built a multi-six-figure business. I was traveling all over the world like I wanted to. I was serving clients all over the world like I wanted to. I was getting featured in media all over the world like I wanted to. Like check, 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 check. But at the end of the day, I still felt lonely in my experience, to be honest. And I still felt like every time, for example, I used to have a really challenging relationship with my mom, which we're repairing now. But I used to, like, every time I engaged with her, get extremely triggered and upset. And then I would engage with my dad and I would get extremely triggered and upset. And then someone would say something to me and I would get extremely triggered and upset. And then I would go on a date with this guy who like wasn't respecting me because he was just mirroring back to me the way I was treating myself, and I would get extremely triggered and upset. So internally, I was still living my life walking on eggshells. I was still living my life feeling like I wasn't actually getting what I truly desired, which was peace, calm, and freedom. Freedom. We as entrepreneurs, we set out into the world to create a thing that's going to help others and it's going to give us freedom. Every single time I have a conversation with someone, I'm like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Yes, they have their own personal why. But every single person's like, I want financial freedom. I want location freedom. I want freedom to make my own schedule. I want freedom. We want freedom. We want to unshackle ourselves from the chains of societal conditioning so that we can be here as souls expressed as who we truly are in our soul essence. That's what it boils down to. This deep desire of, I just want to be on this planet and express myself as I fully am and not be a slave to what these systems are telling me I need to be and who I need to be and how I need to talk and how I need to behave. Like, oh, feel it in your body. It's just like, ugh. Do you want to be told what to do every step of the way? If you release your trauma around it, like, do you actually truly desire to live a life where you have no agency, where you don't have freedom of choice, where you don't get to choose where your money goes or where your energy goes or where your attention goes, and where you just have to do what is expected of you? What kind of life is that? It's not. It's not a life at all. Yet we are collectively conditioned to fit in our neat little boxes and just squeeze into our little boxes and check off all of this, the little busy beavers, right? Busy bees. Just come into this box that we call this societal conditioning and then check off all the boxes forever until you die. And then you're good. Thanks. Good job. Next. That's the illusion. That's the freaking game that we don't want to play because it's an illusion. It's a corruption. It's a corruption to our human experience. What if we could live a life where we can just be in our soul, like in our heart all the time, in connection, in deep connection, being guided by the wisdom of our soul, which is not separate from the collective. We're all connected. We're all one. All puzzle pieces to this big thing we call God. At least that's how I feel it. That's how I've experienced it. Just puzzle pieces to this big picture that is a mystery to us, really. And so when I had this realization, I realized that even though I thought I was in control of my business model, I wasn't actually in control. I was still just replaying old patterns into a new system that I was creating. So I was actually creating my own jail, which is terrible. And for me to liberate myself, and it's an ongoing work because I'm still constantly peeling layers of like, how else am I conditioning myself? How else am I limiting my own freedom? How else am I limiting my own expression? So I'm constantly peeling back layers to this. But I'm speaking to the really big one, that the big layer peeling journey that I went on a few years into my business, which was that, and now that I understand that, now that it's actually the eagle has landed. And I'm so grateful, by the way, that I understood this only a couple years in business, because I have people coming to me like 20, 30 years in business and they just got it. So I'm so freaking grateful that I only had to go through this for a few years for me to really understand it, which is now that I'm here and yep, hitting my money goals, hitting my influence goals, hitting my impact goals. Okay, what else? What else is there? And from there unfolded this really profound journey around trauma healing and actually looking at, okay, it was a freaking rabbit hole of, okay, why is it that I don't feel my success? Why is it that I have created external success, but I don't feel it inside? I don't feel inside I'm successful. I don't feel inside I'm worthy. I don't feel inside that I've got what it takes. And this started a really deep subconscious reprogramming journey in my life where I needed to look at these different areas of myself, these different parts of me that I had neglected for years and years and years that were dormant, these parts of me that I wasn't allowing myself to express. I wasn't allowing myself to be seen in this way. A lot of people, when they consume my content now, or when you're listening to this podcast, you're receiving a very vulnerable part of me. But this part of me, I became this way because I've always been soft and vulnerable and sensitive and empathic. Like it's always been a part of me, but it's a part of me that I had to shut off for my life for a very long time until just a few years ago. I did not give myself permission to be empathic or sensitive or soft because I had created a character armor, which I'm going to create. And by the way, I'm going to be doing an entire episode on character armor because it's so important. I had created an entire character armor around building an identity of I am a tough, independent woman. You don't fuck with me. And whatever the problem is, I'm going to fix it. And whatever the issue is, like, I've got it. Don't worry about it. Right? Not asking for help, not wanting to be seen in my vulnerability because I labeled it as weakness, wanting to be tough, wanting to be in control of everything, not wanting to surrender to the mysteries of life. Yeah, it was a lot. And it translated into my business. It was a very tightly controlled, oiled machine that got the results and it got the things, but I did not feel me in it. And so this journey, what unfolded from this are what I'm going to refer to as strategies for doing the inner work. Although I don't even like the word strategies, but I really want to share a bit more about when I'm speaking to the inner work, now that I've defined it as looking into your internal world and seeing what needs your love and what needs your attention and what needs your healing, and actually like feeling the peace, the love, the joy, and the freedom that you desire from inside before it even manifests on the outside. Like so many people coming to me and they want to learn how to make more money. And it's like, great. Why? Oh, so that I can feel happy, so that I can feel the thing I want to feel, because I'm unwilling to give it to myself right now because I don't feel like I'm worthy of it. It's the other way around. You need to, first you feel worthy. First you feel I'm worthy and I'm happy and I'm joyful and I'm free in my soul. And then you create an income stream that reflects that, or you put yourself out there in a way that reflects that, so you're not a slave to the media, so you're not a slave to how other people perceive you. First you do it yourself so that you're not like creating impact in people's lives to people please, or to feel good about yourself, or to feel like your life is worth living because someone else thinks you had a great program. What happens when somebody else thinks your program is shit? Is your life now not worth living anymore? I say that facetiously, but I've seen people like colleagues of mine get destroyed by the haters because they hadn't done the inner work. They hadn't done the inner work. So the moment that God forbid, that your income stream, there's a disruption like COVID, right? And all of a sudden, the money you were used to making is not coming in anymore like every month like it used to. What happens then? Are you still going to believe that you're worthy? Are you still going to have your self-esteem? Are you still going to have your sense of self, your inner compass? What happens if overnight, like people just forget who you are? Like, yeah, sure, you were on a bunch of articles, like people knew you for a while, you were hot and trendy, and now you are not. What does that mean? Does that mean you're lesser than? Does that mean you're not as good of a professional? Does that mean your work is not worth working anymore? Working for, doing? Does that mean that you should just quit your job and just shut down your business because nobody cares about you anymore? Is that what it actually means? Or if, like I said, you help a lot of people and you're getting a lot of validation of that, and then all of a sudden somebody's like, oh, your course is terrible, I want a refund. What does that mean? Does it actually mean that your course is terrible? Does it actually mean it's a horrible course? Or does it mean that that person, maybe it's not a fit for that person and they purchased it on a whim, or they purchased it irresponsible, or maybe your marketing needed some adjusting and clarification, and so it wasn't a fit, and it's nothing personal because you're still helping 100 more people. The meaning we give to things that are happening I'm speaking specifically in our business, but it can also happen in the relationship, like that failed relationship example I gave you, which is, oh, well, my marriage is failing and I'm not lovable. Therefore, I'm going to withdraw my attention and pretend like it's not happening by throwing my attention to something else. Or is it just that this needs an investment of your time and attention, and you need to address some things that you're doing that aren't really like considerate of the other person? And as soon as you address that, things can get better. It's all about the meaning that we're assigning to things. It's about how we perceive the things in our life, and we say, oh, well, I'm not making enough money, therefore I'm not as good as like Joe next door. Oh, I have an unstable income source, so that must mean I'm an incompetent business person. Or does it just mean you need to get better skill set and stop going into a trauma response because when you grew up, you were told that you were incompetent, and that's why you heard all your life, and you were like being whipped to work harder and harder and harder. And so now you carry that story with you into the present now moment. And now you're just seeing your present and your future through the lens of your past. This is why it's important to do the inner work, because it's really important to learn how to discern between what is an illusion and what is your truth. All the income, influence, and impact in the world is not going to give you that. It's going to give you a really nice ego validation so that you know that you're a good girl or you're a good boy, like you're doing a good job. But what it's not going to do is provide you with joy, freedom, love, fulfillment, purpose, and those deeper emotions that you're looking to live into every day. They don't come from those 3 markers. They come from doing the inner work. And don't get me wrong, it's amazing to create like financial abundance in your life, and to be able to support so many people through the work, and to be able to know that when you put yourself out there, there's a really deep impact, and like people's lives change as a result of you showing up as you. Like, these are all beautiful things. Nothing like, we want to be income, influence, and impact. They're beautiful, beautiful, beautiful markers of success. It's just the how they're being defined and whether we get lost in them, and whether they're being balanced with the amount of inner work that you're doing to make sure that your inner world is catching up to your external manifestations, and not only catching up to, but actually influencing them, directly influencing your reality, which is exactly what we can do. It's not going to add up to much. So let's start to really break down like the inner work and what it could look like. Because I know some people who either are new at this, like, okay, so I like the inner work, but what do I actually do? Who do I be? How? What are the next steps? And there's people who are like, but Selena, I'm doing the inner work. I don't know what you're talking about, but you're still in this position. So if you are still in this position and you're quote unquote doing the inner work, we might need to shift how you're doing your inner work. We might need to shift what you're actually doing. Because if you're somebody like myself, I can't freaking sit for an hour meditating in the morning for shit. It's just not, it doesn't go with my constitution. It doesn't go with my soul. Like, my soul wants to dance. My soul wants to move. My soul wants to be in the sunshine. My soul likes mantras. You need to figure out, you need to ask your soul how the inner work looks like for you. But here's a few options. First of all, let's get clear on, in the way that I have learned it and the way that's worked phenomenally for me is when we talk about the inner work, we need to look at 4 different bodies. We look at the physical body, which is your literal like vessel, your actual body. We look at the emotional body, which is your emotions, your emotional state, your emotional intelligence. We look at your mind, mental body, which is where most of society is stuck in these days, which is thoughts, logic, rationale, belief systems. And then we need to look at your soul, which is the one that's really like, it's the essence. It's your soul essence. It's what it connects you to all. It's the unseen life force that's moving this body. Like my soul is what is moving this thing I call a body. It's the vessel. The body is the vessel. The soul is the essence, the life force that's moving through the body. And so when we're looking at these four bodies, you want to look at them as a team, because an issue a lot of people do is that they will prioritize most high performers will put their mental body above everything else. And then everything else that is in their mental body is basically second priority. It's like, oh yeah, who cares about my physical body? I'm just going to overwork myself until I am burnt out and have adrenal fatigue. As long as my mind is working all day and I'm like getting everything done on my checklist, like it's going to be fine, right? Another one that gets deeply neglected on a societal level, this is a freaking pandemic, is our emotional body. The collective level of EQ, emotional intelligence, that human beings have is so fucking low. It's embarrassing. Like it's horrific. We're not taught in school. In school, we are taught mental body, how to think, how to do things, how to do math, how this thing works, how to build this thingy, right? Like we're taught like very masculine energy, like how to do, how this thing works, how it looks like. We are not taught how to be with our anger. We are not taught how to be with our grief. We're not taught how to communicate with another human being so that we're not projecting our own unresolved emotions onto them and expecting them to respond to us when we're just vomiting our shit on them. We're not taught that kind of hygiene to communicate with people with respect, non-violently, authentically, to speak our truth in our authenticity. We're not taught these things. And so most people have no fucking idea how to work with their emotional bodies and how to actually feel the depths of their feeling, all of them, from the quote unquote, what people call negative feeling, which is just I hate that term because it's just emotions. Like all emotions are valid in the human spectrum. And some emotions are just vibrate at a denser frequency than others, which just makes them like, anything that's dense, it's just harder on the body and it's unpleasant on the body. So if you're spending a lot of your life angry, it's a really dense emotion. Grief is one of the most dense of all. It's just really taxing on your body. Like your body has to burn extra calories to like cope with the unresolved version of anger, the unresolved energy of anger. Like people who have repressed anger, they are wasting massive amounts of their energy. Like let's say you wake up every day with 100 energy units. You're consuming like 30 energy units. Like on my iPhone battery, I look at it, I'm like, oh, why is it that my 30% of my battery went so quickly? That's because I have all these apps open. And that's the same thing with anger. Like you have all of these apps open with anger and it's just consuming like 30 units of energy. So you start the day, like by the time, like whatever you're doing with your day, you have 70 units of energy. You are not at full capacity of what you're actually capable of what you have the potential to be and do in this planet. When so much of your energy is getting tied up at pushing down the feelings that you don't want to feel because no one has ever taught you how to feel those emotions. How to feel these tough emotions that are tough on the body. The anger, the grief, the shame, the guilt. Those are the biggest offenders. And we walk around with these emotions just freaking like taking up battery juice. Imagine you're on your iPhone and you have this like app that's open that you literally don't use the app, but it's just taken up all the freaking battery juice. And you keep ignoring the app, but you refuse to close it down. You refuse to actually delete the app on your phone. So because you do that, it just keeps up taking the battery and it's going to keep doing it until you wish to do something about it. So the emotional body is a big freaking offender because it depletes us of our energy. Like when you don't know how to regulate yourself, it doesn't feel good. Literally, it can manifest disease in the body. Like people who have a lot of anger, it manifests into infections, it manifests into liver issues. People who have a lot of grief, manifests into heart issues, manifests into lethargy, into metabolism issues. My gosh, like the lists are endless. And the evidence for this has been proven across the board for thousands of years, like Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, like modern Western medicine. It's all showing that there's a deep correlation between what we feel and repressed emotions and the ways that they manifest into physical diseases in the body. That's also another topic for another time. But back to this one, which is you have that, and then you have the mental body, which can look like, for a lot of people, overthinking, overdoing, constantly trying to figure everything out, trying to freaking control everything. And it also looks like belief systems where you choose to believe in these beliefs systems that are not actually true. Like the belief system of, oh, well, I grew up like poor and I grew up watching people work really hard for money. Therefore, if I want more money, I need to work really hard, which then turns into burnout. And it might not be even in alignment with the kind of life you want to live if you want to spend a lot of time with your children or your partner, for example. So now you're like in this loop of how you need to do life according to the belief system that your mental body adapted unconsciously. Oh, that sucks, right? So you have these pieces, the physical body, the emotional body, you have the mental body, you have the soul. The soul is the one that's like, hello, just waiting for you guys to just wake up and let me steer the wheel here because I know where we need to go. I know where highest potential lies. I know how to get you to like your highest potential destiny, but you're not letting me talk. You're not listening to me. So I'm just going to lay back here. I'm not fighting you. I'm just going to be quiet until you're ready to listen to me. And when you're ready to listen to me, I'm going to speak to you. And the language I speak is called intuition. And so the inner work, as I have found it, is really about, number one, awakening to the role that this team, they need to operate as a unit, and there's no hierarchy. The soul's not better than everyone. The mind's not better than everybody. The physical body, like we all need each other, our emotions, our physical body, our mental body, and our soul. We all need to collaborate together in balance, in harmony, in alignment for us to live a very fulfilled, joyful, happy life and to manifest some really cool shit on this planet while we're here. Like it's how we collapse timelines. It's how we accelerate like our desired future into the now is by being in alignment through these four bodies and to actually like whenever one of them pops out of alignment, we know what to do about it to get them back into alignment. What I mean by that is if your physical body is all kinds of out of whack right now, like you have gut issues, adrenal fatigue, like you're not sleeping enough, you're not eating what you need to be eating, like your physical body literally like is not operating at its capacity and its abilities, you can't get into alignment. Like you need to take care of your body, get some sleep, take a bath, a relaxing bath, get back into the parasympathetic state, like get into a relaxed, calm state so you're not in flight or flight. And take care of your body so it can be in alignment. If your emotional body, if you're like all kinds of angry and you're repressing it, and now you're snapping at your kids, or you're, really, really mad and you're not dealing with it, you're avoiding it. So now you're just distracting yourself with alcohol, sex, TV, whatever that your distraction of choice is. So what you're not doing is actually dealing with the anger. Guess what? That anger ain't free. It's going to keep lingering and it's going to keep subconsciously coloring and affecting the decisions you're making in life. So to get you back into alignment, you got to figure out where is this anger coming from, the root of this anger, and processing it using emotional processing tools, releasing that anger from your nervous system, calming down, integrating, coming back into alignment. If your mental body is like all over the place, trying to control everything, trying to do everything, and then you have no time to take care of yourself, and then you're not addressing every time your emotional body freaks out, you go to your mental body for safety and you overthink things. You see how they all work together and they all affect each other? And then you're overthinking, so you're not addressing your anger. So now your anger is manifesting into a liver issue that now is affecting your energy in your physical body. Right? So it's about coming back into that and recognizing that there's different elements of you that are at play and they all actually need your attention evenly. And when you do that, when you're managing, when you're actually able to get these parts of you on the same team, then your soul can come in, like fully land and speak, and it can tell you, why don't we actually quit this job? It feels like I feel like there's something just around the corner. And lo and behold, you quit your job, and then 4 days later, you have an amazing opportunity that you wouldn't have been able to say yes to if you hadn't followed your intuition to quit your job. Or you say, you know what? This is really like so random, but I have this really deep desire to create a masterclass about this topic. And all of a sudden, there's all this demand for it. And this masterclass launches like the next level of your business, and you had no idea. You couldn't have thought it. But you can't have these feelings and act on them when you're fatigued, exhausted, angry about something that happened the other day, and overthinking about what needs to happen next. There's no room, there's no space for magic to come through, and for magic to actually like flow through you, and for your soul to speak, and for your soul to communicate with you and guide you on the next step of your journey, of your highest possible journey. There's no space. And this is how people get very caught up in the money train. Let me make more money, let me make more money, and let me buy more stuff so that I can feel this way. And then they end up with all the stuff they could ever want, and they still don't feel free because they're still suffering with a lot of unresolved anger at their mother, or like resentment with a partner that they've been with for 20 years and they shouldn't be with, but they don't want to admit that to themselves because they haven't done the inner work. Or they are working a business that they're not actually passionate about, and they're not caring about this business, but they're doing it because they need to do it for the money. These are the situations that occur when we skip the inner work part. Or you're going into this influence train where you're just like creating all this content, like these stupid fucking dancing reels on Instagram. And you're like, I feel stupid dancing to this reel, but I guess I got to do it because that's what the algorithm is saying I should do. And I want to have all the likes because if I have all the likes, it means I'm important, which means I'll be remembered, which means I am worthy. According to whom? According to my audience, and not according to me. Not according to me in my core. It's not I feel worthy in my core. It's everybody's liking my shit. So then therefore I must be interesting. You see the difference? One is I've done the inner work and I know that in my body, in my soul, like I am worthy. And when I don't feel worthy and my emotional body is like, hey, I'm feeling really sad right now, I know how to work with myself so I can bring myself back into harmony and feel worthy again. Same thing with mental body, you know? Like I think it needs to be this way. It needs to be this strategy because everyone else is doing it. This person did it and they were able to create a 7-figure business with this strategy. So therefore I should do it because if it works for them, it's going to work for me, right? Is it your soul strategy or is it your mind strategy? If it's your mind strategy, I can guarantee you, like having experienced this personally and working with people, like it's not going to work. Or it's going to work and it's going to create a lot of stress, distress, and anxiety in your life. And the impact, which is the piece around, okay, I want to help a lot of people. Great. But then when this inner work part isn't being done, then what it looks like is I need to help a lot of people so that I can prove to myself that my existence on this planet is worth it. And the more people that I help, the more I can measure. It's my stick of measurement that I am worthy of being on this planet because I've helped so many people, and therefore I am worthy because I help people. When actually you get to be worthy, even if you help no one at all in your entire lifetime, you still got to be worthy. And I know for a lot of people, especially your entrepreneurs out there, that statement is a little hard to swallow. It's difficult. It's difficult to accept. But can you entertain it? Can you expand your mind to believe that someone can go their entire life just living their best life and helping no one? That doesn't mean they're selfish. It means they're not driven to create a business that's going to help thousands of people. That's not their motivation. They just want to have a simple life at home with their family, taking care of their family, helping their neighbor when it's needed, but just living their simple life. And they're perfectly happy as a clam to do that. Does that mean they're not worthy because they didn't have quote unquote impact? Does that mean they're not worthy because when they die, no one's going to remember their name? Does that mean they're not worthy because they didn't make a certain amount of money that they can say that they made this amount of money and that's doing this really noble service and that's what makes them worthy? So that fourth eye, as you can see, is really important. Is really, really important because the fourth eye is going to very deeply influence how we experience the other three eyes. It's going to influence, like when we feel worthy and we make a lot of money, oh, that feels really good because your self-worth is independent of your net worth. And so when your self-worth is independent of your net worth, you can make all the money you freaking want. You can make millions, tens of millions, whatever. But whether you have it or don't have it, it doesn't actually change that you feel worthy about it. And so when you have this money, whatever the money is, whether it's $100,000 a year or 10 million a year, like you're like, oh my God, I feel amazing. And I feel so worthy of every single dollar that comes into my bank account. And if those dollars decide not to come, I'm still so worthy of being who I am, of expressing myself. And the influence, regardless of whether I have 100,000 followers on Instagram or 100 influencer, followers on Instagram, regardless of which one that is. I feel so happy about myself, and like I'm just really glad every time, even if it's 5 likes. I'm really grateful. I'm so grateful. It's so exciting because this work like influenced somebody, and that's really cool. I'm really glad to know that. And if you can feel that feeling, whether you have 100 followers, 0 followers, or you have 1 million followers, then you're going to keep doing what you need to do out of your soul purpose, instead of I need to like go on TikTok and do a dance, even though I don't really want to and I'm not inspired to, but I should because the algorithm says so. I mean, you could do the dance if you love doing it. I personally don't. I'm personally not into the TikTok dance at all. I feel stupid doing it. Some people love it and they're amazing at it. But again, the difference is it that I'm doing this because I think I should, or because I need to prove something to myself, or I need to check off this traditional marker of success? Or is it that I'm doing it because I choose to? And that's the inner work. And the influence, the impact is, my God, I feel so satisfied. I'm so happy that I've helped somebody. Like I feel really good about this. Like it's amazing. It's amazing that I get to do work in my life that I get to be compensated for, and that actually like helps people in their life. Like what a gift. As opposed to, well, as long as I've helped Susie and John and Kate, like now I know that like my life is worth living. The people pleasing habits come in. The I need to change someone else's life so that my life has meaning comes in, which is not healthy at all. It's not healthy. So as you are building yourself up and creating these beautiful, impact, income, influence, my suggestion to you is to really keep a pulse, number one, on not just you creating these things, but also how are you creating them? Like really keep a pulse on that. And that's also the inner work, by the way. Like check in with yourself. Are you making money the way you want to make money, or for the sake of making money? Is it a joyful activity for you to make money, for you to grow your income? Is it something that you're like so excited about because the more you make, the more you get to contribute to causes that you love, the more you get to treat your family to nice dinners, the more you get to like fly your parents out to see you, the more you get to, stay, have some really nice spa time and take better care of your beautiful physical body and hire the support that you might need to take better care of your beautiful emotional body. Like, is it that, or is it that I need to make this much money so that people can think that I'm enough? Is it that the influence is coming to you because you love it and you're like, oh my God, I love like getting on Instagram and sharing with people, and I know that when I share, like this has an impact and it's really beautiful? Or is it that like, oh my God, what do I need to do next in order for people to see me and accept me? The impact. Is it like, what a joy to be alive and to be able to overflow so much so that I can, like, what I do and who I am actually changes other people to be who they are and who they want to be? Or is it again that like, I need to help people, so I'm enough? Check in with yourself. Check into how the income, the influence, and the impact you're creating in your life. Are you actually building it up and growing it how you want to be growing it, in accordance and alignment to who you want to be and how you want to live your life? And if the answer is no, then don't forget the fourth I, the inner work, and balancing that and infusing it into everything that you do. And the inner work, it looks different for different people. It's actually a really long journey. And, through, as you're listening to this podcast, I can't possibly squeeze all of this into one episode, but I will be sharing more about this, of what the inner work looks like, what it can feel like, what it can do for you. But it's really about, okay, what's going on with my physical body and my emotional body and my mental body and my soul? Like, what's going on? Is everybody on the same page here? Are we on the same team? Are we in alignment, like in full alignment, in sovereignty, in freedom? And every step that I take is my choice. And if the answer is no, then there might be some work to do. There might be some work to do into understanding the depths of what your belief systems are. What are your limiting belief systems that are at play right now, that are in between you and the thing you desire? What are the unresolved, repressed, ignored emotions that you're not willing or desiring to feel, or maybe you don't know how to feel? But the point is that you're not feeling your emotions. You're not in tune. You're not connected to your emotions, but they're still subconsciously influencing every mental decision you're making. So it's, again, not a free pass. When you get angry and you shove it in, when you get mad, sad, upset, disappointed, and you shove it down, It's not a free pass. It's still going to be influencing you. And not only that, it's going to be subconsciously draining you, because now your body needs to actually like work with this stuck energy in your system, in your nervous system. And your body like needs to work harder to make sure that all this stuck energy stays repressed. And it's going to attract a lot of people in situations that are going to give you the opportunity for you to bring that emotion back up. And that's why when you have an unresolved emotional pattern, like for example, all men are going to betray me, you're going to continuously attract situations where men betray you. If you have an unresolved pattern of every time I get money, money leaves, you're going to continue attracting situations that have you attracting a lot of money and then you lose it. Because your body's like, oh my God, can we please get rid of all the stuck energy that you've been like hoarding for the past years or decades? And okay, how am I going to pull up this energy? Oh, okay. Ooh, this person. I'm going to get really attracted to this person. I'm going to get really attracted to this man so that he can like betray you, and it can finally bring up those old feelings of betrayal, and you can finally feel these feelings so we can be free of them once and for all. Then the human's like, no, I don't want to feel it. I'll do it later. And then your body's like, okay, let's bring up another situation. Ooh, what about this guy? Oh, what about this boss? He's safe because he's not a romantic connection, but let's try him because he's definitely going to betray you as well. And then you get to feel this feeling and finally set me free of this stuck emotion in my body. And then you're like, nah, and it keeps going for decades if you let it. So don't neglect the inner work, please. Right? Look at it. Look at it. Look at you. And that might look like, getting support. It might look like hiring a mentor. It might look like looking for a coach who can support you with emotional blockages, or rewriting your limiting belief systems, or having a healthier lifestyle in your body, or reconnecting you to your soul essence, and redeveloping, recalibrating your nervous system to be comfortable and available to actually like make decisions from your soul, and to learn how to discern between your ego and your soul. There's an entire skill set that needs to be learned, but the journey is very satisfying. And I promise you that when you infuse the fourth eye, that inner work, into everything you do, success tastes sweeter, because it's you. It's your definition of success. It's who you are in your core. It's your heart. It's not a lie or an illusion or a thing that you like unconsciously subscribe to and now you're feeling you're stuck to. No, it's actually like your authentic truth of, this is who I am. This is how I want to live my life. And the way it looks like through income, impact, and influence is like this for me. For me. And this is what feels good. And this is how I feel like I am free. And this is how I feel at peace. And this is how I feel in love. It looks differently for me than it does for you, than it does for someone else. And that's why I'm working with clients. And I constantly have people coming to me being like, well, so-and-so did it this way, so I should try it. But they're not them. You're not them. And that's also the secret sauce of when I'm helping people with their brand story, which is that your secret sauce is that you are you and there's only you. And so when you're creating your brand and you're creating your business and you're sharing your story, it is your story. No one else on the planet can copy your story. No one else on the planet has the desires that you have in the way that you have them, in the way that you wish to manifest them into the world. And so, of course, that when you claim that and you own that and you become aware of that, and you actually start to action it strategically through your business, through your brand, through your life, you're going to start to see that your life is going to reflect who you truly are inside and what it is that you truly want to create. So know that the focus, like any time you spend working on yourself, on your inner fulfillment, is not wasted. It's going to reconnect you back to your soul purpose. It's going to get you realigned to the truth of who you are. And it's going to make sure that everything you create, all those traditional markers of success, they taste your way. They're not some generic flavor that you picked up in your life and you just subscribe to because there's nothing else that you get to do now. And you just have to like surrender to a societal way of living that you're not even into. But rather, you get to create, you get to innovate your markers of success into who you are and what you want success to be in your life. So find this balance between the inner work and the traditional markers of success, and know that this is the key to create higher levels of fulfillment and well-being. And it's completely available to you if you choose it. If you decide to walk this path, it's available to you. And it's a journey. I'm not gonna lie to you. It is a journey, but it's a journey worth taking. And the success will taste so freaking sweet. It will taste of freedom, of love, of joy, of beauty. and whatever else you want to sprinkle in there. It's up to you. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. And for those of you who really resonated with this episode and you're feeling like, okay, I get it. I need to do the inner work, but you're feeling like, I'm really not sure, like, how do I find the tools? Where do I go? How do I know what my next step is? What does the roadmap actually look like? For those of you who are feeling that way, I highly encourage that you look into my 12-month all access pass and container, which is called, surprise, surprise, it's called The Journey. So I offer a 1-month container where you get access to every single course, masterclass, training, meditation that I have ever created, my entire body of work, and anything I'm going to create in the next 12 months is accessible to you. And not only that, there are quarterly Q&As where you can come in, do the work, and ask me questions. And I can laser coach you and actually support you personally in these group calls to help you uncover and get into the next step of your journey. And what in this container, when I designed the journey, the point of the journey is to actually give you all like the treasure chest of tools, techniques, and guidance that you need to be able to navigate the inner work, to create more income, influence, and impact in your life your way, doing the inner work. So the journey it's actually split into 4 different phases of evolution. One is like navigating your subconscious mind. So inside of the journey, you're going to learn my proprietary method, my rewrite your life method, on how literally, like when I talk about reprogramming your subconscious mind, I have a method that I have taken Fortune 200 companies through, like executive teams of Fortune 200 companies. I have taken some of the top industry leaders that you would have never known had subconscious issues through this process. It's trial and tested. It's amazing process of how is it that you actually can take a limiting belief system, you can identify your big limiting belief system that's getting in the way of you and the income, the influence, the impact that you desire. And I walk you through my process of how do you identify the trigger? How do you actually clear it through your body? How do you emotionally process it so that you can create more space and expand your nervous system to receive the new limiting belief system that is going to be a match for how you want to live your life? And this is how my people and my clients, the people in my life, when you look at the testimonials on my website, this is how they absolutely transform their life. Is the first one of the core pieces is this subconscious reprogramming process that I take you through, which is found inside of the journey. There's also an entire section on storytelling, as those of you who might be following along know. One of my zone of geniuses is helping people tell really compelling, very, very lucrative as well, like brand stories that are just absolutely irresistible and help you create the income, the influence, and the impact that you desire in your life. So your story and how you can express yourself in your business and your brand is such a key component of being able to do that in alignment to your soul. And so I have an entire section where you have access to a few of my courses, trainings, like around how to create your brand story. There's an entire strategy component inside of the journey, which is all around how you can actually take like who you are and translate it into, there's an entire section of money, how to create premium offers, how to make more money, attract more money in your life in a nervous system friendly, trauma informed way, and how you can actually go and like turn your idea into a product, turn what you want to create into money. How do you actually build, like how do you launch your program in a way that's in complete alignment? So there's an entire like so rich in resources of how you actually, the how, right? How do I actually translate my soul into a business strategy that is going to make me money, income, and influence? And then last but not least, it's soul. There's so many practices inside on how to reconnect to your soul, how to come into deeper communion, like what does it mean to align? There's an entire alignment practice on how you can actually be in alignment with who you're meant to be. And there's guided meditations to reprogram your subconscious. So the journey is just action freaking packed container. You get to walk the path with me for about a year. And yeah, you get to create the income, you get to create the impact, the influence, and you get to do the inner work every step of the way. And I got you completely covered on how to do that as it pertains to you, your specific type, your specific human, what are some tools that you can use to be able to create what you desire in your life that way. So if those of you who are interested, you can go into the show notes and check out the links. And if you enjoyed this episode, please don't be shy. Screenshot, tag me in it. Let me know what you loved about it. I would love to repost and share your thoughts and your insights. And last but not least, if you're loving this podcast and you haven't done so already, we would so appreciate a review of the podcast. It helps us get more visibility. It helps us get out there and get this message out to more people. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next episode.
Thank you, beautiful humans, for tuning in to today's episode of It's Not What You Think. If you loved what you received today, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, as it helps us reach even more amazing listeners like you. If we aren't already connected on social media, come receive even more tips and inspiration by following me on Instagram at Celine DaCosta or visiting my website at CelineDaCosta.com. After listening to this episode, I invite you to take a few moments to reflect. What stood out to you? What were your key takeaways or breakthroughs? And if there was one action step you could take from this, what would it be? Thank you again for joining me on this journey. I'm sending you so much love, and I can't wait to connect in the next episode. Until then, keep sharing your unique gifts and living out your most magical life.